6th, 2009. As always, I'm Craig, your host. This is the first of 3 installments this week. We're going to talk about some Marvel books here. Part 2, we're going to talk about some DC and some IDW books. And then in part 3 is going to be all indie books. There are a lot of indie books I really enjoyed this week. So first of all, let's start with the Marvel books in this one, and we'll check it out. Starting with Amazing Spider-Man 593. Spider-Man 24/7 continues, and it's not a bad book. It's all right. You know, it doesn't really offend the senses, but at the same time, it just kind of throws it all out there. Oh, and yeah, take that for those of you who can't handle it. Oh, there's naked old people. Ah, it's terrible. Ah, you thought I was getting rid of it. Seriously though, it's an alright book. I like the new Vulture. I think it's an interesting twist. I think it's kind of a departure from what we thought Spider-Man 24/7 was going to be, but you know, it was kind of discussed that the Vulture was going to be in this arc, even though he hasn't shown up in the first 2. But hey, not a bad book other than that. You know, it's there in the middle. It's not something to really write home about, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed. I'm still entertained. It works. It's all good, baby. Next up, Daredevil Noir #2. And again, really solid book here, as we've come to expect from the Noir franchise. Really interesting stuff, you know, we're going to see again another twist on that whole Bullseye, Daredevil, Kingpin saga, which is really nice. I think it's very interesting. There's some solid exploration of character here. It did remind me a lot of Brubaker's current arc. And obviously in the sense of using the core Daredevil mythology, but still, you know, very interesting, good stuff. Again, it's tough to do a Daredevil Noir book because there's not a lot of noir there. There were a few things that kind of identified it as 1920s noir as opposed to modern day Daredevil and Hell's Kitchen noir. So that's not too bad. But again, another solid book from the Noir line. So definitely, again, not a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. Pretty good. I still think Wolverine Noir is probably better. I hope we get to see #2 very soon, as soon as I can prove that to myself. Oh my goodness. Deadpool #10. This book continues to be hilarious. It's kind of like those couple issues that sagged in the middle and realized they needed to stay on the cutting edge of the Marvel Universe. And so here we are with the Hawkeye/Bullseye going after Deadpool with such a brilliant story. And it's not even really the interaction with the main characters or interaction with the main events that's really making it interesting. Like, the plot is there, and Daniel Way just has to build around that structure. Okay, we're going to send one of the Dark Avengers after Deadpool, so let's build around that and let's play the comedy out of that, as opposed to trying to fabricate some story about Tiger Shark or whatever. It seems very logical. It's flowing out of the Thunderbolts crossover. Very well done, and I think that's when this book is at its best, really. And this is another really, really hilarious Deadpool issue. Really good stuff all around. I've been mostly avoiding the Timely Comics after the disappointment that was Captain America Comics, but this is Human Torch Comics #1. I decided to give it a try because it's Scott Wagner week, and we're crazy for Scott Wagner here, from Atomic Robot to Killer of Demons, as you will see both in part 3, to this book, I believe one of his first books for Marvel. I'm not sure if it's his first ever. I'm sure somebody out there that knows Scott Wagner could tell me a little bit more. But here, unlike the Captain America comics, the Timely Captain America comics, which was felt like a Marcos Martin 10-page story and a huge reprint, this was a more solid, more substantial Jim Hammond Human Torch story with, again, a reprint, but you know, still a huge thing. And the reprint is a little more historically significant because it's the first appearance of Toro, I believe. It definitely seems like it's introducing Toro, which is really good, and it's a really solid idea. Let's reprint important stories, not just Captain America plays baseball, you know, like in Captain America Comics. It feels like there are some that are hit and miss. This is definitely a hit in the Timely Comics series because it's a really good idea. It really explores the Android Human Torch really well in a way that he hasn't been touched in years. And again, with Scott Wagner on art, it's really great. A little bit cartoony, but a little bit fun nonetheless. Plus, you get an old reprint in there as well. Definitely worth the $3.99 in this situation. New Mutants #1 is up this week, and definitely opt for this cover if you have the choice over the absolutely terrible cover. I tell you right here, I don't think that is physically possible. Whatever Moonstar is doing right here, I don't think that works. It's just something in the physicality of it doesn't look right. But anyways, I digress. Here the New Mutants are getting back together and magic is there. And I don't think we really need an explanation. I'm willing to give the X-Men books the benefit of the doubt and say we don't need an explanation as to why all of the New Mutants are working together again. Let's just put them together and run them on a mission. But at the same time, I think we have to treat this book with a little bit of a maturity. We have to say, okay, even though, you know, they're the New Mutants and they're back together, the band's back together, they're not going to act like they did in the New Mutants. They're not completely clueless. They've been X-Men. They've served on other teams. They've served in very important roles and done important things in the years that they've been apart. So they shouldn't act like teenagers. This is a point that is lost on Zeb Wells, unfortunately. You can't just make them react like teenagers after years of people writing them to be adults to break them out of the shadow. Then we decide, okay, we're going to put them back there. We're just going to write them like they age regress. That doesn't work here. That's really my major quibble with this book. They're written like they're dumb. They don't understand. They're very immature. They don't understand tactics. They don't understand strategies. It just doesn't work. It drives me crazy. Other than that, it's a pretty fun book. $4, it's a little high, but you know, if you like the New Mutants like me, if you grew up on the awesome little ones, you know, hey, the first series was awesome, and the second series probably has some promise. We'll see where it goes from here. Last up for the Marvel installments, another number one of 5, Terror Inc. Apocalypse Soon. This Terror Inc., the first series by David Lapham, was put in my hands by Brad Blankenship, as you know, an occasional contributor to the video blog, and it was such fun. I knew I had to check out the sequel. It continues to be a very fun idea. Terror is a guy who has an arm encased in metal, and he's got a curse. He basically lives forever, but all his body parts corrode and decay and just turn into gross, you know, until he like takes them off and replaces them with other people. So he's kind of like a zombie, kind of like a Frankenstein's monster, but he has this curse that mends it all together for himself. So he just cuts off somebody's arm and puts it on, or cuts off somebody's head and pops it on his. It leads to a very gory idea, but it's a Max series, so it's good. It's supposed to be there. It's some more great stuff. He's a hilarious character as well, despite being very morbid. It's a very black humor, very dark humor. It's more of the same from Terror Inc. Very interesting stuff with a plague and some very interesting stuff going on there. So that's it for the Marvel books this week. Stay tuned for part 2 and part 3.